to another installment of the Badass Entrepreneurs Club. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Mulrooney, and today I have the pleasure of bringing on Eric P. Rose, who is someone who helps so many different entrepreneurs really to realize their dreams. So Eric, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Angela.
My pleasure. So you now really do make people's dreams come true. You help them to really take a dream and make it into a reality. But there's a story behind how you got there. So how did you first discover that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or what was that taste that made you go, this is something that maybe would happen into my future?
Sure. I think the first thing that really hit me was as a child. This idea of find a need and fill it, right? We've all heard that as an entrepreneur, but I stumbled upon that as a child and had no idea. Growing up in Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio, it was a requirement that in science class in elementary school, you had to have an insect collection. Well, how many kids at 10 years old would be interested in going out and capturing, killing, mounting, and identifying those insects? Well, not a lot. It happens to be that mostly the girls didn't want to, but there were some guys that didn't want to as well. But I was absolutely fascinated. And when I found out that I could charge a nickel a bug, captured, killed, mounted in a cigar box, labeled, the whole thing, and that the cotton swab and the nail polish remover were free from my mom, and the cigar box was free from the neighbor guys who smoked cigars, and all I had to pay for was a penny for the biology pin, so I could make 4 cents a bug. I was like, wow, I get to talk to girls and make money.
Oh my gosh. And this was a requirement in school that you guys had to kill, mount, and label these bugs?
Yes, in science class, 10th grade, Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow. I don't think we had to do that. We did other science experiments, but that's beyond. So that's really interesting. So what was it about that, obviously making the 4 cents out of the 5 cents going right into your pocket? That's one of those realizations where we go, I can make money grow on trees kind of thing sometimes. And then sometimes it goes beyond that, where there's this mission that we really want to start to fulfill. So where did that go from grade 10 into your future?
Sure. So over many years, I realized that I was crafty. I was good with my hands, whether it was capturing, killing, mounting, bugs or building things. I started building things, whether it was go-karts and machine shop class and so forth and so on, wood shop class. I ended up in machine shop class, which took me into engineering school in college. And so I got an engineering degree, came to Los Angeles in 1980, working in a corporate world. I had really backburnered what entrepreneurship was and how to foster that. Growing up in the Midwest, I grew up in a middle-class family that you go to school, get a good college degree, go to work.
Right.
The idea of being an entrepreneur wasn't really there. But as I moved into the corporate world and saw more and more about the process of making money, that I realized there was more to it than being crafty and delivering on physical product. And so I was able to get my MBA from Pepperdine University, and then ultimately worked for a tech company in Los Angeles as a business development director, or what many people would call an intrapreneur.
Okay. Define the entrepreneur thing, because we always talk about entrepreneurship, but you don't hear that term entrepreneur very often.
Exactly. So I was thrust into this opportunity. The company said, look, we want to grow revenue. We're not sure if we should be growing revenue by looking at our existing products in new markets, or we really need new products for our existing markets, or maybe the answer is both. And so in the end, doing the market research, understanding the customers, who they were, who they weren't, who they could be, but we hadn't captured them yet, I realized the answer was, yes, we needed to both create new products and take our existing products into new channels. And so while I helped them take their existing products into new channels, I really was passionate about creating new products for their existing customers. So they were a manufacturer of remote controls for digital projectors, slide forward, slide back. And they knew a lot about infrared radio frequency remote controls, but really didn't understand the bigger picture. And I asked a simple question. I said, who are your customers? And they said, oh, well, our customers are manufacturers of digital projectors, those things that get screwed to the ceiling that make your PowerPoint go back and forth. And I said, no, let's think bigger than that. And the answer is your customers are anybody who presents.
Right.
So it could be a teacher, a trainer, a keynote speaker, an ad executive, a marketing executive, a road warrior, salesman. They all are people who present. Now, what kind of products might they want? CEO said, I have no idea how to figure that out. And I said, well, let's do that together. And in the end, I found the National Speakers Association.
Mm-hmm. That would be a gold mine for that.
That was a gold mine, exactly. Was able to sponsor one of their events at their trade shows, which gave me the door open to do a focus group. And I asked them a key question. I said, how can this company that manufactures products, how could you imagine we'd help you to make more money? And they said, well, we've got problems with this, and we've got problems with that, and we've got problems with this. And there was about a dozen people in the room, and I had about an hour and a half quality time with them. And at the end of the day, there was one product that by far stood out. It was an ultra portable PA system. They said, look, Eric, we go into these venues, we go to speak, we don't know if our laptop is compatible with what's there. If there is anything there, are the connectors wrong? Will our music play through it? How do we ensure that it's going to come with us if we're going to take it with us? And what we want, and they basically told me what they would pay for tomorrow,
right,
was an ultra portable PA that was about the size of a laptop, fold up like a laptop, fit in the overhead compartment of an airplane so they could carry it with them, come with a little lapel mic and sell for under $1,000. And if the company I was working with could do that, they would buy one tomorrow. Went back to the CEO of the company and he said, we don't know how to do that. I said, but your customers want it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll buy it tomorrow. Your sales force is excited because they're going to get higher commissions. And your dealers love the idea because they've never seen anything like it.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we say no to that opportunity? So I found a strategic partner, a company based in the United States, but also had manufacturing in Asia. And for a $35,000 strategic partner investment, we paid for engineering, tooling, initial samples. They did the design, the development, the manufacturing in their China factory, delivered finished pallets worth of product into Los Angeles. We opened up a multi-million-dollar revenue stream on a $35,000 investment. And the product's still in market today, 13 years later, on its third iteration of design.
Wow.
That was the taste. That was, wow. I see ways to make money that other people maybe don't see because I come from the product world, but I also have the MBA and I also sold insects at 10 years old.
What did you do? What was your focus of your MBA? Because the MBA can cover a whole bunch of different topics in business. So what was yours specifically?
Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So we actually had to create a company, run a simulation, and I will never forget the most important lesson I learned through that simulation. I was in charge of business insurance for the team and accidentally allowed the earthquake insurance to lapse. And the professor could see these triggers in his command center. And as soon as we allowed our business insurance to lapse, he threw us a simulated earthquake, which devastated the business.
Right.
We went out of business and we were out of the competition.
Oh, wow.
So that was a good experience.
For sure. Well, everything that you did with that company, though, you've taken that information and now that's what you do with other people.
Yes.
You're really taking them from that, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have an idea, to this is something that is viable in the marketplace. So what are some steps that you walk people through to help them to go from this is a dream to this is reality?
Yeah, that's great, Angela. Thank you. So what I learned was that public address product, the product called Go Speak, taught me about customer discovery, right? Lean startup and customer discovery, product market fit. And rather than what I see so many people do is, I got a great idea. Don't you want to buy this? No, it's what I call, it's customer discovery and product market fit on steroids. So first of all, at the high level, I walk them through 3 keys to successful new products. It's marketability, technical feasibility, protectability. Marketability is the foundation of entrepreneurial success in my mind. And that has its core around Steve Blank, Eric Ries, Lean Startup. And they talk about getting out of the office and going and doing this customer discovery, the interview process. And I've broken that down into 3 steps. And I find this is very successful. And I did this with Go Speak, not even knowing what I was doing. It's first of all, anguish discovery. I asked.
Also known as pain points for
Pain points, that's right.
Exactly.
I said, how can I help you make more money? Dear professional speakers, what's holding you back? What's the anguish that you've got?
Mm-hmm.
What I love about doing the anguish discovery is, as a designer, because fundamentally at heart I'm a designer, I have a clean sheet of paper. Don't preconceive what a solution is, because there may be something there you haven't yet imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And so the anguish discovery is literally digging in and finding out what kind of anguish is there without a preconceived solution, or maybe even a market segment where you think you should be in the baseball field, but really you should be in the football field. And either way, you're going to be successful, but you might make more money in the baseball field than the football field, but you didn't even realize there was a problem over in the baseball field. So anguish discovery. The second step, after we figure out what's going on out there, is what I call an oral hypothesis. So we're going to test the product idea, but I'm not going to show you a prototype. I'm not going to give you the details of how this thing is going to work. What I will do is give you a high-level concept of how I could envision a product that overcomes your anguish and could do this, that, and the other thing, perhaps in a retail price point of, or I may do some A/B tests and test pricing. Where might you want to find this? Online, offline, omni-channel solutions for delivery, go to market. So I'll get this rich understanding without physically showing the product. Now I've got that second step of the marketability, the customer discovery, product market fit. Now, if there's really an opportunity there, I'm going to put you, let's say it's a dental related product, for example, I might put you under a non-disclosure agreement. Non-disclosure agreements can be difficult to obtain as an entrepreneur, especially if you're looking for capital. Nobody's going to sign one. But if you may have some subject matter experts that you want to talk to, you can put them under a non-disclosure agreement. But because it's more difficult, I save them until that third step within the market research. Now I'll show you a prototype, virtual prototype or physical prototype. And hopefully it's a physical prototype I can let you use in your own environment, leave with you, and in the end, do a discovery after you've used the prototype for a while and figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you want to have done differently.
So when you're working with people, are they coming to you with that idea? Are they coming to you, they've already created their prototype and something is funky about it and it's not working, so they can't get to market? Where is that main entry point that you step in and really help them?
Sure. I've been able to help my clients anywhere from a cocktail napkin sketch. Literally, I had a spine surgeon client who had a cocktail napkin sketch, and he said, Eric, I have a vision to improve the quality of the elderly's spinal health by having them use a traction device that doesn't require them to get down on the floor. We took that from sketch, market research, product technical specifications, product development, prototype testing. He's now got his patents, and I'm working with him to determine if I can get him a licensing deal.
Wow.
The other end of the spectrum, often clients will come in with a prototype. One of my dental clients, a company called Gentle Jaw, he had a very rough prototype to stretch the jaw, product called Gentle Jaw, but the tagline is yoga for your jaw. So it stretches it and alleviates TMJ, jaw pain. And he had a rough prototype, but it really needed final engineering, final prototyping, manufacturing, sourcing, tooling, debug, packaging, an FDA consultant that I found for him. everything that was necessary to kind of help him get all the technical matters done. And then at the far end of the other side of the equation from the cocktail napkin sketch, I help my clients with failed product. And failed product could be physical failures. It broke. So I'm an expert witness and I've done a lot of work around failed product. Or it could be failed product, it didn't sell.
Right.
Why didn't it sell? And therefore it's a market failure. So I work all the way along that spectrum. And I've learned to stay in physical product where I do best. I've done a little software, a little service, but really my expertise is in physical product.
So where do you find that most people get stuck? Because I'm sure there's tons of people out there, they have that great idea that they think is going to change the world, but it never becomes a reality. And is it sometimes they're just so enamored with the concept that they can't see the forest for the trees? Or where is that sticking point that prevents them from going from there to where you take them in the end?
Sure. I would say at least 70%, probably 80% of the entrepreneurs walking in my door believe that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and their mother loves it, right? But
Love
the
that.
reality is they've done zero to little customer discovery and product market fit. So I'm also an entrepreneur in residence at California State University, Northridge, and some of the best student groups I've worked with not only have 10, 20, 30 interviews of users, dealers, distributors, key opinion leaders, but they've got over 100 interviews. And for those entrepreneurs that have really gotten out of the building, done the hard interviewing, looked at all the different opportunities, maybe segmented the market, understood which ones could be executed against from concept to cash the quickest, those are the ones that are most successful. Mm-hmm. For the ones that, I had one client who spent nearly $500,000 on the design, the development, the prototyping, and the global patenting of a product with almost zero market research. Those have a very tough road to hoe because they are very enamored, mm-hmm. even though the market may not really value that.
Mm-hmm. So are there some testing points where someone who is in that dream stage or is starting to put together a prototype, that they can ask them to solve these things to see whether they do have those rose-colored glasses on, or whether they're actually seeing the reality of what they're up against?
Sure. Early on, before they ever do anything with a prototype, in my product innovation course in the MBA program at Pepperdine that I've taught, my students are required to do 10, 10, and 10 when it comes to interviews. 10 anguish discovery only, 10 oral hypothesis, and 10 with a virtual or physical prototype. And you can't skip those. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't done that type of interviewing and you're rushing off into a prototype, which, oh, by the way, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000, you're going to be so locked in on that because you've made that financial and emotional investment. You may not see that. That's not really what the market wants, or it may not be the easiest concept to cash path. And maybe you need a product with less features that can get out sooner to test the market. And then, like the Go Speak, we got out there pretty quickly, but then the product was iterated.
Mm-hmm. For a lot of people who do invent something that actually works in the marketplace, how many of those people stay with that one product and just keep killing it with their invention versus the ones that continue to be like, oh, okay, now I see another problem that we can solve, and they come up with another product, not even necessarily another iteration of that original product? Do most of them go on to do multiple innovations?
Not that I've seen. If they try, it doesn't usually work as well. It's almost like, rock and roll, you get the one-hit wonder. You would think that they would be successful in subsequent products, but usually what I see is a lot of subject matter experts, which I love working with, mm-hmm. particularly in the healthcare field. So they can do, a jaw-stretching device because that doctor is an expert in orofacial pain.
Right.
But, can he go into the operating room for podiatry? Maybe, probably not. Right. So it can be challenging. On the other hand, if you're an expert in the hardware industry, you may be able to span painting and plumbing and electrical and have multiple products in the category, et cetera. But that's much more difficult from my experience. Most of my clients, they'll say, I think I'm going to get this to the point where I'll license it and I'll be happy with a royalty, especially the healthcare professionals who have a day job. They're doctors.
For sure. And do you find a lot of them, like, there are people who are subject matter experts, but they see something that needs to be done that is not really to do with their expertise. Do you find many of those people do well trying to create something outside their expertise, or are they better to stick with like truly what they know and niche into that?
My experience is they do much better staying in their niche.
Right.
They know it innately. They have a very big community. They have people to rely on, people to go to, people who could help with the promotion. They may know people who would ultimately want to license it. One of the best student projects I'd ever seen at the University of Southern California at USC was a dental product. I forgot what he's calling it now. I think it's InBrace. And it's a single wire that ends up behind the teeth and that is pre-programmed over time to straighten your teeth. And you don't have to be yanking on the wires all the time. And he was perfect for it because he was an expert and he had a huge community. So he built his board of directors, he built his investors, including with a distributor. So it just made a lot of sense and he's killing it as best as I can tell at the moment. I think he's just finished his A round.
Wow. So we've talked a bit about the stumbling blocks that you see with people who are trying to take the path of what you help with. Now, when you were going from insect to intrapreneur to entrepreneur, did you have any stumbling points? Because it sounds like it's been a pretty logical progression, whereas most people have like lots of diverse, they go in lots of different directions before they actually find their direction. But it sounds like yours was pretty straight. Did you have anything that you learned along the way that really informed that path that you ended up taking in the end?
I think there's a two-part response for that.
Okay.
In terms of my core consulting business, I have been doing new product innovation now for 40 years, and I've been teaching it since 2009. So it's something I do in my sleep, and whether it's selling insects or building mini bikes or whatever. And I still have, I think, 50 patents in my name that are still active. So that fundamental portion of my business, I know I do well. I chose to go into a separate entrepreneurial venture, not in my sweet spot. It was a political novelties business.
Okay.
And I thought the market, especially in the US, was very ripe and got some interest through my customer discovery and product market fit. But in the end, the stumbling block was the e-commerce platform and finding the expertise to be able to deliver through the supply chain, particularly, not getting the supply because I'm good at that, but it was getting the product out into the market and the advertising and the Shopify and the shipped and all of that, and relying on so-called experts where you don't even really know what the criteria is for that expert.
Right.
And so it was a good experience, but not one that I care to do again.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like that is part of the reason you can see how this journey will progress for other people, is because you have had that diversion and gone outside your niche and made that mistake for yourself. So that is helpful.
I would call it created a unique learning experience rather than a mistake.
Love that. Way to turn it around and spin it. So is there anything else that people need to think about that we haven't covered yet today? Because it sounds like we've gone through the steps of how they need to logically go through it. But are there some little things that happen on the regular that pull them off their path because they get tempted by the next shiny object?
Yes. So at the highest level, the system I teach are the 3 keys to successful new products. It's the marketability. Is there a market? Have you done the customer discovery, product market fit? We haven't talked about the other 2, which I'll take a moment and talk about.
Sure.
Technical feasibility. Can the product be designed, developed, and manufactured at a cost low enough where everyone in the channel of distribution gets the margin they expect? So all too often, I'll find an entrepreneur who says, I just think I can go direct with this product, and doesn't realize really you're going to need a distributor, or you may need a dealer. And oh, by the way, they need 20 points or they need 40 points. And have you allocated that in the margin? And I was fortunate to have worked at Mattel Toys for 5 years. And my last gig was working for the chief strategy officer of the corporation, launching a new brand called Intel Play, and being able to see very important aspects, especially when it comes to target cost. So if we're going to sell the product at retail for $10, we know that the factory cost has to be about $2.50. If you've got a $5 factory cost, you will never be successful. So not with the distribution methodology that we had entrenched. So same thing as an entrepreneur. You really have to make sure you understand the margins in the channel, the go-to-market strategy, who are the people that are touching the product, and now carry all that knowledge back into the research and development, product development, engineering phase, manufacturing, to see that you can have fidelity between what the market values, what comes out of the factory, and the margins that are expected in the channel. So it's not, technical feasibility is not just can it be engineered. It's can it be engineered at a cost low enough where everyone in the channel makes the margins they expect. The third key, which many people jump to first, is protectability. And most of my business comes from patent attorneys, because patent attorneys are the ones where the entrepreneurs come, I got a great idea, let me patent it. And the best patent attorneys often say, Eric, I don't think they really understand where they're going with this. Can you give them your 3 keys talk and make sure they understand if there's a market? And if there is, I would love to help them with a patent. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't really be a win-win unless there truly is an opportunity there. And so I get a lot of referrals from patent attorneys to look at it, look at the opportunity, the venture, the product line, and say, is there really something here? If so, let's spend $10, $20, $30, $50,000 on patents, copyright, trademark, trade dress, trade secrets, global patents, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I imagine when they're in that phase of looking at a patent too, they again have those rose-colored glasses on that this is going to be the next big thing. And so they're willing to invest in what they foresee as the future. So it sounds like you have some amazingly ethical patent lawyers who are helping their clients not to lose their shirt in their dream, right?
And they have to be careful because their obligation is to execute against their customers' requests. And they're not in the business of making decisions as to whether the product will or will not be successful. Right. They're in the business, their obligation legally is to provide a patent. So they walk a fine line, and it can be difficult for them, but I'm very fortunate to have been able to collaborate with a number of great patent attorneys who do that.
Amazing. Well, is there anything you want to add before we head out today, Eric? This has been very insightful, and I know there's lots of people out there who have these great ideas that could use your help. But is there anything any nuggets you want to leave us with?
I really think it's important for all the entrepreneurs, whether you're a physical product, software, even service, to think about this framework for being an entrepreneur. And that is the 3 keys to successful new products. And remember, it's marketability first. Restrain yourself. You may be a kid in a candy store and you may have $10, and that's a lot of money, but make sure you understand all those opportunities that lie in front of you and which ones will allow you to go from concept to cash the fastest for the least amount of money, the most effectively. Number 2, that technical feasibility. Remember that engineers love to engineer, and it isn't about the engineering. Look, I grew up as one. It's really about, can you turn that opportunity in the market to a physical object that will make money? And so don't let the engineer just engineer without you keeping that fidelity between what the market values and what you end up sending out of a factory. And then and only then will you protect your patent with a blanket of intellectual property. And just to be clear, that it doesn't mean you don't want to have prior art searches. I'm working with a dentist now to do prior art search before we get into development. But a prior art search is inexpensive, and it says, is the road clear? So I do recommend that, but I don't recommend spending $10, $20, $30, $50, $100,000 on an idea to patent it when you don't know if there's a market for it or if it's technically feasible. So marketability, technical feasibility, protectability, the three keys to successful new products.
Great insight. So if someone out there is listening and they're going, oh, yeah, I really need to talk to Eric, how can they get a hold of you?
You can always Google Eric Paul Rose and you'll find me. But I'm also at Pinnacle PI. My corporate name is Pinnacle Product Innovation. So my website is pinnaclepi.com. And you can reach me at eric@pinnaclepi.com.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time sharing your knowledge. And yeah, I think this is going to benefit a lot of people who have those great concepts that they think they want to take to market. And you're definitely the man who can help them.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.